The early church didn't explode with growth because the apostles got better at preaching. It started when people stopped spectating. Acts 6 is all about going from addition to multiplication. Join us as we talk about it.
Welcome to the Morning Manna Podcast. You're invited to the table as we discuss how to love God, love each other, and love the world.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Morning Manna Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Ertel, and today I'm joined by our lead pastor, Chris Fletcher.
You know too much about me already.
That's awesome. We've got the president of Manna University, Dr. Carlo Serrano.
Thank you for having me.
And we've got producer Bryson on this side of the camera.
Yeah, I got promoted.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we had like 4 people call out. We were like, okay, we got to have somebody on here.
We're scraping at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
There's no one in there. There's Bryson. He'll do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to sit quietly for
Can you
about
sit
an hour.
upright in a chair? You can do what Sam does. It's perfect.
I can.
That's
I'll just
right.
sit very quietly.
That's all you bring to the table. I love it.
Well, if you're here, then who do we have producing?
Oh, dear.
Oh my gosh, there's producer Andrew.
Oh, my.
Yeah, happy to be here with you guys today. Excited to do the Icebreaker as well. So for this little portion,
You seemed really excited in rehearsal, so I can't wait to see what you've got now. You were a little amped.
I was.
Okay.
Should have kept that going.
Sure.
But we are going behind the curtain with Andrew today. So what that means is that we are going to go a little bit. We're going to go a little bit deeper.
He themed it. He put his name into the segment behind the curtain.
How dare you? Who do you think
with
you
Andrew.
are? First,
Man.
you've
What
been
was I
talking
thinking?
60 seconds, and
What
you've
was I
already
thinking
made your
during
You
all
hang
this?
out with Sam. You hang out
What
with my
was
baby
I?
brother Samuel, don't you?
Well, the only thing I didn't do is sing Happy
Oh my
Birthday to
gosh.
myself during the Multiply Conference.
Yeah, that's true.
Would have been
That's true.
unappropriate.
What do you got for us?
Just like it was. So the point of this segment
Behind
is
the
to
curtain.
actually get to know you guys a little bit better as the podcast panel.
dear.
So here we go. Start
All
with
right.
question 1. Pastor Chris, do you have a hidden talent or hobby?
I don't know if it's a talent. It is a hobby. So a number of years ago, I decided for vacation time, but then it just spilled over from there that when we go on vacation, or really this summer, I try to make it where my wife doesn't have, she's a really good cook, but I try to make it where she doesn't have to cook. She doesn't want to. And like partway into it, like she'll back me up on this. She's really good. I'm not in her league, but I'm not bad.
Okay.
Like anymore these days as the time gets, and I see you looking at me like that. I'm not talking about meat and burgers that I do on the grill of the smoker.
Thank you. That's a very important distinction.
At the same time, if you ever had my beef bulgogi smoked burgers,
Yeah.
Wiggins will tell you they're not half
That
bad.
sounds
I'll
good.
hand make a chili aioli for the bun.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So-
Chris.
All right.
I don't know if I'm good at it. Like I don't know that I'd have your wife over. She's like
Yeah, she's a tough
she's
critic.
she's
Yeah, she has a standard.
she
that-
knows her way around.
There you go.
Her parents were chefs. Like
there you go.
Professional chefs?
She grew up.
Oh, I
She
didn't
grew
know
up the child of chefs, professional foodies.
Chefs.
Like I thought I was a foodie.
Sometimes confused for chiefs on paper.
She's all the way.
So
But it's I don't know that I'm good at it. It's not a hidden talent necessarily, but it's a hobby.
you have a lot of talents, though. So like you have a cornucopia of talents.
How much you pay him to say that?
I am average.
No, it's true,
I am
though.
average
It's
at I
disgusting.
am average at a lot of things.
Okay.
I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
you're-
exactly true.
You
I'm
were on
average.
American Idol. How about that?
I'm average at a lot. I don't know that I technically am allowed to say that on YouTube.
Okay, but I'll say it. I didn't.
I was on
find
American Idol.
anything.
We'll bleep it in post.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
So the man of many talents, moving to Dr. Carlo, the man of more talents.
I'm adequate.
Yeah. What about you? What
I'm just happy to be here.
what hidden talents or hobbies?
That's all right.
do you
We're gonna
have?
drop off. We're gonna drop off in a minute. We're getting to Nick eventually.
Yeah,
the man of one talent.
What's the question again? I'm sorry.
This is my talent. This is all I got.
This
Yeah.
is
Do you have
my
any
crowd.
hidden talents? Right.
I don't have any hidden talents. I think I tell people what my talents are. I do jujitsu. I choke people for fun. I like
does.
to read books. I like to know things. A lot of people don't know I grew up playing drums in church, so I've been a drummer for a long time.
I did not know that actually.
Didn't you
yeah.
play at Cornerstone?
Come on, that's the impromptu stage. That's not a big deal.
Dude, all the kids
yeah,
from the
I-
90s right now are freaking out.
What
Like
year did you play at Cornerstone?
98.
98.
Yeah, Cornerstone 98.
2003.
There you go.
Hey.
Yeah,
See, and that's another one. Okay, stop.
I was
So I
in
played
Jeff's
drums.
band. I just played bass.
I played drums for a while. Grew up in a musical household, so I like to sing. I don't know that I can sing, but
Same.
those are things that
I get it.
Now, do you still play?
drums.
Yeah.
Not a lot regularly. I still consider myself a drummer, but I'm hitting decline on the PCO request. So don't come at me.
All right.
Understood.
What a flex, though, if he came to speak from the drum cage. Like,
I saw that once.
I did that.
I went to a church plant and I did see the guy.
Get the smoke machine going, get that bumper going.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he appears from the mist.
Come on.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
did that for my first 5 years in ministry, working at First Assembly of God, Clarksville, Tennessee. I would often play drums on a Sunday night and preach that
Phil
Sunday
Collins,
night sermons.
that
or
joint.
Wednesday- yeah, yeah.
Come on.
Phil Collins.
I
with the
can
whole-
feel
Don't do
it
that.
Yes.
coming in the air tonight.
The last time I did that was
Oh, Lord.
2021. I played drums
Oh, man.
and then preached the
That's pretty cool.
We were all coming out of
Love
COVID. We were all doing all sorts of crazy stuff back then.
Yeah.
Love it.
good.
for sure.
All right. Well,
We were all doctors back then. Remember
Producer Bright, is this
Actually,
continuing?
it was.
It's,
But not
yes,
that.
producer Bryson. Actually, Nick told me to skip you. I'm not going to do that.
Thank
I
you.
love you, Bryson. So
Thank you.
let's hear what you got.
Yeah, it's funny. I would say I was going to say cooking. You reminded me of that, but
We've talked
I'll go-
about cooking.
Yeah, I will. I love cooking.
I know you do.
I'm all for it.
I know you do.
I didn't get like this by accident. So, yeah, like, no, I would say one, and I know I'm going to get crap for this. I know I am. I love restoring old axes. Legitimately. So I have like old axe heads. If I can get an old axe head, I know
You
how to
use a grinder or something?
Yeah, well, I mainly do it by hand because I live in an apartment, so like I'm
Man.
not pulling out a grinder, but I've done it by hand. You can
I
go
think-
through and grind off
I think,
axes and
I think your beard just grew 2 inches
gonna
when
say,
you
like,
said that.
yeah. So it's funny.
You
I
were
have-
looking the part.
if you guys, if you
great.
know me, I have a chainsaw hat that I'll wear around.
Yes,
I've actually never run a chainsaw.
Wow.
But I have felled many a trees
You
with
sit
just
on
an
a throne
axe.
of lies.
Yeah,
love it.
unbelievable.
But it's pretty entertaining. So I do love messing around with like antique axes. I would not call it a talent because I'm not amazing at it. But I did just
what a grown man.
I gave my brother an axe that I restored and then wood burned his initials into it. It was pretty fun. Birthday.
On his
What a guy.
day, his hidden talent can also be putting. But then again,
Yeah,
the very next day,
Yeah. See, the thing is,
it's not
that's
a talent.
hidden.
It abandons it.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't even call it hidden because we talk about golf almost every podcast. It somehow comes up. We're going in the morning.
We're going tomorrow. Yeah.
We'll see if my hidden talent is putting tomorrow.
Hey, fun little fact. When we had Pastor Chris Hodges on the show last week, he told us offline he just became a member at Oakmont.
Oh my dear.
That's legit.
I tell you what.
And he also was like, yeah, last week I hit a hole-in-one at Augusta.
He did.
What?
He
The
did.
weird. That's the craziest flex I've ever heard. I actually
That's
like.
amazing.
I started sweating when I heard that.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
I love that.
All
Sport.
right. Well, I guess it's me.
It's you,
What's
Nick.
my hidden talent?
Wearing hats.
Yeah, this is it. This is all. This is all you get.
I am podcast
All right.
host.
His
So we're
hidden
done.
talent. His
We're
hidden
done with
talent's
the
being
segment.
married to Stephanie.
That's right. Man, I can really make some great sock puppets for the kids.
Can't catch a baseball though.
Man,
That's why Stephanie married him. He keeps the kids entertained. He's
That's right.
He's next level.
and
with
I
those
don't even have
kids.
to try. It's just myself.
You're good at.
No, I was in a band growing up. I wasn't nearly. I played guitar. I played drums. 7 years of music theory.
I could share some of your latest work, you and Sean. I've got some on my phone. I can
Oh,
share
I
that next
forgot
week on the
about
it.
podcast.
I do too.
No,
yeah.
we're not gonna. Oh, that's
we
great.
Your latest dabblings.
Yeah, I did drop a.
It's
thing.
If you want to hear Nick's latest dabblings, drop a post in the comments.
yeah.
And if
Yes.
listen, if 10 of you say we need to hear this, then next week's podcast I will bring Nick's latest release. But there have to be 10 of you.
I'm
So
getting
yes.
embarrassed already.
So good.
Yes. Yes. He's also good at breaking podcast mics.
Yeah, I did
wow.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. So
Very
my hidden talent right now is just weightlifting. That's all. I do some powerlifting. That's what I do.
He does.
You do.
That is what I. And so
Very
apparently last week I was trying to tighten this down and sheared the bolt right off. And that, we actually have footage of that. We should drop that somewhere.
That'd be pretty
Wow.
entertaining.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Dropping a lot of stuff.
You know, Nick is actually good at stuff. Believe
he
it or
is.
not, he is actually good at stuff.
He
I
is.
know we give him
I like the adequate.
such a hard
line.
time.
I'm adequate.
Depending on what it is. Some stuff not so much, but most stuff, yeah, very, very adequate.
Andrew,
And
what's,
above.
what's your hidden talent nobody
And
knows about?
above
Oh,
average.
Andrew's another one of those guys who's got tons.
Tell him.
He
Tell him,
does.
producer
I
Andrew.
know
Crazy.
exactly what you want me to tell him.
I'm going to tell him if you don't.
Okay.
I'll share all sorts of stuff about you.
I worked in the indoor skydiving and the skydiving industry
Thank you.
for a while.
Yeah, but you
Saves me
didn't just
time.
work there.
You didn't just
were
work
at
there,
like
yeah.
the top of the industry.
Team USA.
Yeah, I got to go compete for Team USA in the indoor skydiving.
The Buzz Lightyear
worlds.
Falling with Style Championship.
Yep. It was
That's it.
quite fun. I thought we had pretty decent style. I thought we did quite a good job. So,
I love watching you fall out of the sky. It's riveting. Who knows? Will he make it? When will he throw the parachute? And then he does every time.
I've seen him do that because I used to eat lunch down at the Rayford
I tell you what, that's right.
airport, and
There
I
you go.
saw him fall and then
That's
not
it.
die.
You and Jacob Ray,
He not dies every
I made
time.
it.
Every
Yeah.
time.
Every time.
What
Every
a thing
time
to
up to
say!
this time.
What a thing to say in Fayetteville. I saw him fall from the sky and not die. Like, there's,
Yeah.
I've made it every time.
That's good.
This has been so good. Man, what a time together. This is just wonderful.
This is
guys.
great.
Yeah.
Home of the airborne.
Let's pray.
All right, so we're moving on, but thank you guys for your response.
You're
we are
welcome.
going to move to the top comment, and this week it is from Deanne the Boss 2962. This is what she said.
I know who this is.
I know who this is.
Yeah.
Deanne and the
Yeah,
Boss.
yeah, yeah.
We
Yeah.
know.
Sure.
All right,
We could shout
Leaving-
out her podcast.
Actually, yes.
Yeah,
We
go
could.
for
She
it.
does have a podcast.
She does have a podcast.
rooted in raw.
Raw,
Yeah.
raw and rooted.
Rooted
or
and raw.
rooted and
There
raw.
we go.
Rooted and raw.
We
There you
can't
go.
apparently
Check it out.
shout out.
Shout
All
out
right,
these
D.
podcasts.
All right, D. So this is what she said. Leaving his preaching Bible for the podcast was epic. Well done, John Fletch. What a way to leave your mark on this podcast and all the ones
That was cool.
to come.
I'm holding my heart inside my shirt.
I didn't
It's
know he was going to do that.
beeping out of my chest.
Yeah, we did not know.
No,
That was
I didn't
pretty
either.
cool.
And so it genuinely meant a lot that he would do it. And there it
did.
is. It's
There
right
it
behind
is.
Bryson. That is his
Don't touch
preaching
it,
Bible.
Bryson. Too much
Yeah,
fire.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, producer Andrew. We're going to jump into the meat and potatoes of our episode today. Let's jump into, we are in the midst of this series we call Acts because we're reading.
I am hungry.
Through the book of
Should we
Acts.
ever have? We should have meat and potatoes on this show sometime, and we should eat meat and potatoes while we talk.
You know, I say that every time.
That would.
We should title this
Every
chapter
time?
Meat and Potatoes.
I'm telling you what.
This is the
I'm
meat
telling
and
you what,
potatoes.
A
Can
nice,
we do that,
a
Alvaro?
nice roast with some carrots and potatoes.
Oh,
Maybe some sweet potatoes thrown in there.
There
And
are two
aioli?
groups of people in internet world who would absolutely love nothing more than to listen to or watch a podcast of us eating food. That's just a whole.
I
You
tell
want to
you
get
what.
into the sub layers of internet.
I
tell you
don't know
what,
if I want to get
that's
into
a
that
thing.
sub-layer.
That's a
Anyway, so we are
We're
in
coming for you, internet.
That's right.
we are in week 6, chapter 6 of the book of Acts.
Yes.
And so, just to set the stage a little bit, we've got in this chapter, there's a food distribution that's been going on for the widows, the Jewish widows, and so you've got the Greek-speaking Jews who kind of they say, "Hey, you've been neglecting our widows," and so they bring this to the apostles, and the apostles realize, "Man, we've been so busy serving these tables that it's taking away from our ability to share the gospel and preach it and do other ministry-related things." And so they said, "You know what we should do? We should find 7 trustworthy disciples, leaders,
Yep.
to take this up." And so here's this first question is for you, Chris. The apostles, they choose these 7 leaders, but they give us two qualifications. I find this interesting.
Yeah.
First one is that they're full of the Spirit.
Right.
Second one is that they have wisdom. So out of all of the qualifying factors there could be, why is it significant that he chose these 2?
These are the qualifications for getting in the game. You need to have met the risen Savior. You need to meet Jesus. You need to receive the Spirit. And then, we just need to be people leveling up in our character. At the end of the day, I think the beauty of my friend Brad uses this old 80s term, which some of you will get because some of our viewers are this old. But when I was a kid and you would go to the skating rink, let's just have the couples and let's just have the guys. And then there was the all skate. And the all skate is when everybody in the rink all gets on and skates at the same time in the same direction. The church is now stepping into the period that we're still in, and that is the period of the all skate.
Yep.
Everybody's invited. Look, y'all, as every joint supplies, Paul's going to
Yes.
say in Ephesians chapter 4, as every joint supplies, y'all come on in, take the gifts, talents, abilities that God's placed in your life, and let's do this all skate together.
Yep.
And that's what happens in Acts 6. Really, to ruin the whole thing, this is why it says, I think 5 times before this,
Yeah.
the Lord added their number or their number increased. We're adding.
Oh, yeah.
And then after this, once the all skate happens and everyone starts grabbing hold of bits of the ministry and doing it themselves, now we go to multiply.
That's huge. We're going to unpack that some more
Yeah.
as well. But I'm curious, again, those 2 qualifying factors. So they're filled with the Spirit.
That's right.
They've got wisdom.
Yep.
How come it wasn't like, hey, this guy's a great leader. He's led a Fortune 500 company or,
Those things aren't bad. Those
Yeah.
things are good. We should constantly be leveling up in our skill. But I think I say it in the message, in the kingdom, being comes before doing. It's not to say that doing isn't important. I'm sitting next to El Jefe from the Manna University. I'm sitting next to a scholar. He and I would both agree that adding to our knowledge and our skill and our repertoire is important. He and I would both agree furiously on that. And I think he and I would both furiously agree that in the kingdom, being comes before doing.
Right.
Doing isn't not a part of the equation, but at the end of the day, it's about who you be. Do you know him? Does he know you? Do you walk in relationship like those two things are happening? If so, and you're full of the Spirit, you got what you need, bro. We can work with you.
But what does the modern church need to learn in this regard? Because I feel like sometimes we get so distracted and we shoot for all of the doing. Like, what are some things that we should just embrace?
We promote doers beyond where their be can maintain.
Ooh, say that again?
We promote doers beyond where their be can maintain. We promote people.
This
we
is
promote
what we tend to
skill.
do.
We tend to promote skill past where people's character can maintain. At the end of the day, your skill will always fall to the level of your character. Always fall to the level of your relationship with God.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talk about how even in our growth track, we say that character is in a crock pot. There's lots of other things.
Yeah. Charisma and anointing can come in a microwave.
Yeah.
But character grows in the crock pot.
Yeah. Man, that's good. Okay, so
On the smoker.
on the smoker, which, hey, I love a good smoked brisket.
On the pellet smoker.
Come on.
I'll tell you
All
what.
right. Some people are going to hate that. Some people are going to say, no, you got to do the old school way. And I say,
I have loads of respect. I have a friend, Todd Abbey, if you're watching this, mad respect. My friend Todd uses wood,
yeah, like
an
the old school way.
old-fashioned smoker, and he uses his spidey
Respect.
senses and just feeling it out. And he is real good.
Yeah?
I'm just not that good. So at the end of the day, I, like Michael Wiggins, trust my equipment. You know,
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I have a pellet smoker. That's where I'm at. So, hey.
I've had your smoked baked beans.
Oh, that was early on in the early days.
They were
They're right.
decidedly tolerable.
That's right. That's right.
Adequate.
They were adequate.
That's right. All right. So here's the deal. So coming back to our story. So we've got the 7 people who are chosen, one of which is Stephen. We're going to talk more about him later on, but we've got Stephen, and he ends up not only serving the tables, but he ends up doing some preaching of his own. He kind of ruffles some religious folks' feathers. He ends up getting himself arrested at the end of the chapter. But before that happens, I find it...
Someday we should nerd out on those people.
Yes,
Because we got the proselyte from Antioch.
Yep.
I mean, like they're the first 2 are real big. It's Stephen and Philip. We're going to meet them again. The others are somewhat, Nicholas is in there. Niklaus. They're just sort of glossed over, but it's a pretty, like, it's a lesson in and of itself how they set up this leadership structure. But that's another conversation for another day.
I mean, if you want to comment.
No.
Well, I wanted to try to see if I could get the
Yeah, you're
nerd. I want to
baiting
see
him,
if I am baiting. It's exactly what I'm doing.
Where my brain is rattling, these names are chosen for a reason.
Okay.
So you said it a couple of times, and I know we're going to talk about it in the lesson. You keep saying there's 2 qualifications. There's 2 qualifications. If you read the verse, I think it's 3. There's actually 3 things. The first thing they say is men of good repute who are full of wisdom and full of the Spirit.
Okay.
So they had a reputation. Now,
that's
I'm
good.
convinced that the good reputation is connected to the fact that they're full of wisdom and they're full of the Spirit.
Yeah.
But we tend to want to swing this pendulum. Of course, like we're saying, leadership is it's ontological. Who are you, and who are you becoming? But that's not separate from, you got to do some stuff too, and you have to have a track record.
Yeah.
So they weren't just picked because eeny, meeny, miny, mo, they're the holiest. I'm convinced they were already doing some of this stuff. They already had a reputation that captured the heart of what these leaders wanted. That's why they chose them. Because before they got the title, before the hands were laid on them, they already had a bent towards, let's take care of everyone who's calling on the name of the Lord.
Okay, real quick, Bryson, as a young guy who's hearing this, what does that teach us? Like, how should we posture ourselves if that's true, if they were already doing before they got the title, like, what should we be doing?
Yeah, I think back, one of the things that I think about all the time, Ben Goodman, I remember I was really young. I just started the internship, and I was like, oh, I want to be a teacher. Like, I feel called to teaching.
Pause.
And he said,
How old are you now?
25. Yeah, well.
Continue.
I was very young.
Yeah, you said very young, and I was sitting over here like, yeah, all of
I didn't
all
even
of
say
us.
that I'm not young
It's
anymore.
good to clarify,
All of
though,
us-
because his
Yeah,
beard
well.
makes him look 40. So, like, some people are not
Well,
going to
man,
believe
I
he's
graduated
25.
from 37 to 40 in a week.
So,
That's
so we
devastating.
should also clarify, because something that's always impressed me. I was making fun of you earlier about
Yeah.
you just sit quietly, but something that's always impressed me is how deeply God has built these things into you because you just went and looked for them at a very early age.
That's true.
So if
Yeah.
I could say to all the youngsters watching, part of what you see in Bryson's life is not a microwave of, well, he's 25, so it came on quickly. Well, Bryson's been at this for a hot minute. And so some of this stuff
Yeah.
that ends up being under the hood, well, he's 6 to 7 years into walking some of this stuff. So if I don't care if you're 45 years old, if you're 6 to 7 months in, he's ahead.
Let me
Yeah.
pile on. Bryson has spoken at our chapel services. He's one of, I think, 2 people who has ever come to me, teaching pastor, president of the university, and said, I just gave that talk. What did you think? What can I do?
Smart.
How do I do it better?
That's smart.
He's
Yeah.
Anyway.
one of 2. Anyway.
I interrupted you.
Yeah.
Ben Goodman.
Well, I mean, I guess I wasn't going to say that.
Early
but, like,
days, back when I was a youth.
Well, since I got called to ministry when I was 12. So when I was 13, I was sitting in the pastor of the church that I was going to. I was sitting in his office saying, "What book should I read?" Because it was like I saw myself, not in a self-aggrandizing way, but I thought I'm going to start acting like you because one day I will be. So what?
Love it.
Like
Self-aggrandizing. Are you a homeschooler?
I was in high school.
That makes a lot of
That
sense.
was also why I was sitting in the pastor's office because I had so much time on my hands. I was not studying English. But it did. I mean, it still worked.
He just went backwards, but that's all right.
You didn't take that where I was thinking you were going to
Yeah.
go with it. But okay.
I thought
I thought he was going to say, or going on dates. But
Oh
anyway,
my
continue.
gosh.
Continue. Go ahead.
No, but no, I think
More thought.
I
a
remember Ben Goodman was talking about it, like, hey, if you want to be a great teacher, start writing sermons. And I was like, what? Like, I don't have anybody to listen to it.
Before you have an outlet.
Before you have an outlet,
That's smart.
Start writing them, start teaching them. And that, man, it just stuck with me because I thought, like, how it's essentially like someone saying, oh, I want to be a soldier and then training on the battlefield.
No.
Why would you ever do that? Like, that would be ridiculous. So I'm not going to wait till I get there. I'm going to wait when I have no stakes, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later. Like, I would rather practice and gain knowledge and all that when essentially all of the pressure doesn't ride on my actions. Like, I'd rather do it in a safer environment. But for me, I look at people around, it's like, why are you waiting until you get there to start doing the thing?
Right.
Same way, like, why are you waiting to be a husband before you get married? Like,
If you wait, you're late.
yep.
It's good.
Oh, it rhymed.
All right, so let's jump back into our story. We've got Stephen. He's one of the 7. He
By the way,
eventually...
it's Stephen for the
Stephen?
PH.
Yeah,
Stephen.
P-H-T-E-V-E-N.
Yeah, it's not a V.
I like it.
It's Stephen.
So we've got Stephen.
Stephen.
And he eventually gets arrested. But before he gets arrested, I find it interesting. This is the first person that's not an apostle, that's not Jesus,
Yeah.
that's recorded. Maybe it happened and we don't know, but it's the first person that's recorded doing signs and wonders. And he's just a good dude.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily a clergy guy. He's not a rabbi. He's a good dude. And so, Dr. Carlo, this question's for you. There's a clear shift here happening here in Acts chapter 6, going from the apostles doing all the ministry. Now we see the larger body of Christ stepping in. And so what is so significant about this catalytic moment?
It's just like Acts 4, I believe it is, with Beautiful Gate, that whole scene.
Yeah.
It's just Luke masterfully replaying everything that Jesus did.
It does feel
Acts
that way.
is the blueprint for how the church functions,
Yeesh.
right? I believe that my friend Dr. Mike Bernetti says Jesus in the Gospels never actually tells us what church is supposed to look like, but he tells us what it's supposed to feel like. So in the Gospels, we really get, here's the culture to the kingdom. Kingdom of God feels like this. In Acts, we actually see, thanks to Holy Spirit's work, no, this is what it should. Here's the framework. Here's the structure. Here's the blueprint.
Yeah.
That's why we teach through the book of Acts,
Yeah.
because there's some plays that if you just posture yourself the way it's done here, not all of Acts is prescriptive for sure. Last week, y'all got a little twisted on that, descriptive versus prescriptive. So we heard ourselves. Not everything in here is prescriptive, right? We're not supposed to do everything they're saying.
What is that supposed to mean?
But
I
the
said it
descriptive
correctly.
stuff- no. Someone else said the wrong way, and you corrected it. So I'm just
Yeah, okay.
I'm high-fiving you. Thank you
Okay.
for correcting that. Lest
It was
we all
Samuel.
start selling all of our possessions and giving them away. But in all seriousness, I think
What a guy.
Stephen being full of grace and power was doing great signs and wonders.
Yep.
That sounds like someone else who was full of grace and truth and was doing great works. And
Yeah.
it sounds a lot like in Peter, full of the Holy Spirit. So we're seeing that refrain because this is God's design and model
that makes
for all of us.
that makes sense given how given how Jesus, the incarnational Son of God, puts on human flesh, comes down and teaches, all right, here's how you're going to be citizens of the kingdom. And then in Acts it expands to, all right, here's how the kingdom outlets and outposts and the multiplication of this thing is going to work beyond just add.
Yeah.
That's the shift that's coming to 6.
So the early church didn't explode just because the apostles learned how to preach better.
No.
It's because the people stepped up and stopped being spectators.
Yeah.
Got in the game.
We don't see that shift. We don't see that shift from add to multiply until here.
First time.
First time we actually see.
That's huge.
They say, wait a minute, this is getting out of hand. I can't skip past this enough. There's behavior happening in the name of Jesus that is not reflective of the way of Jesus. We have to remedy that. The solution isn't we're going to do more. The solution is let's find some people who God has already gifted and wired to do this.
Yeah.
And let's bless them and anoint them and put
love
our
that.
hands on them and empower them to go do it so we can do the thing that Jesus called us to do.
I've harped on this all year, pretty much. I've talked about individual and collective, and I've really harped on the importance of individuals because that's very American. The idea that I'm an individual, this is my personal, individual relationship with Jesus, and that's true. But I've harped on that in the midst of the collective, and I'm going to go grab all those breadcrumbs at the end of this message and rake them all together because I'm going to say I can only add. Like at the end of the day, I cannot force multiply. There's no way. I'm not a multiplier. I'm only a multiplier if the people that I add.
There you go.
So I can't add. We can multiply.
Yeah.
Whoever, that's me. You say that. We all say that. I cannot but add. I can only add. But we can multiply.
Yep.
That's good.
So the individual's job is to add and to add and to add and to add. And suddenly that tips into multiply because the beauty of it is, as every joint supplies, we can't do this alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not just the quote unquote professionals. Which, speaking of which, so Bryson, your job on staff,
which is ridiculous. I mean, like at the end of the day, let me just be really, really unnecessarily frank, lest you think I'm an academic, scholarly nerd. My degree is piano performance. You know that, right?
Yeah.
I have a master's in Christian leadership from Manna University. You taught me.
Yep.
There's only but like a couple of survey courses in here. Like I don't speak Greek or Hebrew or that's not what this is. You're just. I think that part of my story is if you get serious enough about all in, if you're serious enough about God and His Word, and His Word in and through me, well, I think some crazy stuff can happen. Because like I'm pinching myself all the time going, I wonder if anyone's going to walk through the door and go, dude, I'm on to you. Like you're great at organizational theory and you can play the piano. But besides that, you don't have scholarship behind anything other than that.
But you love the Word.
Right.
That's good.
I do love the Word. I love the Word a lot.
That's right. So Bryson, your job on staff.
Yes.
You actually don't get paid to produce this show.
I do not.
That's not part of your job title. Your job on staff, you are the director of guest services.
Right.
Yeah?
Yes.
So in other words, let's break that down a little bit. Your job is to lead people who have a different 40-hour-a-week job.
Yeah, the hardest working people at Manna Church.
They don't work for Manna Church. They don't get a paycheck from us.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. These are people who are lay people who are leading.
Let's not forget the children's ministry.
Okay.
It's a competition for the top.
It's a neck and neck between
Okay.
serve team
I'm
and
building
children's
into
ministry.
something here. Here's my point. You're not just leading a bunch of staff members.
Right.
You're leading a bunch of people who are everyday Jesus following, Bible loving people who have different jobs. So here's my question for you. How do we in Christendom, how do we avoid the trap of professionalizing ministry where few people do the work, few people do the ministry, and everybody else watches and spectates?
Yeah, I have.
He means Christendom, not Christendom, by the way.
Just Christendom.
Christendom.
I have a Nick filter, so whatever he says that isn't quite right, I just go ahead and I put it back in place. It's covering his sin.
I love it.
And that way, yeah, okay.
Good.
I have two kind of thoughts when I go with that. For one, on a personal, I'm a staff member at a church. There is no other paid serve team member. Like in the serve team lane, I'm it. That's my job.
Yeah.
So my job is to promote a yes culture. And what I mean by that is if someone comes in and says, hey, you guys should go and do this thing, I'm like, yes, you should. Absolutely. Someone walked in and was like, hey, you should start this small group. Like the church should have this small group. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. You should go and do that. How can I help you?
Yes.
And it was, I do that a lot. Somebody walked in and was like, hey, we need to change this thing for guest service. I said, great. It sounds like you're perfectly equipped to do that. How can I help you? My job got really, really easy when I suddenly realized that my job is to not do anything and just empower the people who really like bear the burden to do it. Because it was at one point I would go, like I was filling all the seat backs. I was going shopping for everything. I was doing all the work, all the little tasks. And then I realized, like, for one, I'm not the best at this. There's better people at it. And two, they care more about it. So let me just say, hey, you clearly use what God has put in you to do that thing. But what I also like, outreaches, small groups, like any sort of thing they're passionate about. Why am I the one? I'm not professional at this. You're clearly better gifted. I'm 25 years old. Like I'm talking to people.
There he goes.
Like,
there he goes. Play that kid card. I'm just a kid.
No, but like you think I'm sitting here. I was talking to there was one person who used to design churches for a living. Wow. And he was asking me what I think about something. It's like, why are you asking me? You did this for a living. How about I just say, here's the money. Here's the training on how to do something else. Here's the only things I know. Good luck.
Your job is to spin them up and point them in the right direction.
That's exactly right.
Use the gift that God has given you to go be a blessing.
Yeah, so that's me as a staff member. The other thing is, as an individual.
He is somewhat underselling.
Yeah, you do something.
Slightly.
You said something that caused me to shiver. You said, my job is to not do anything, but to, wait a minute. You do a whole lot. You do a whole lot of stuff.
I do a whole lot of stuff. But my direction is not like task or I'm going to have my hands on it. And because what we could do very easily in a church.
Your job is outcomes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I need to make sure that stuff happens.
Your job is deliverables.
Yes. Right.
And if it all falls apart, you're still on the hook for it.
Yeah. It's my stuff. And I just found it's better when I'm not the one who's actually doing the thing.
Sure.
There's people who are better. So as an individual though, just as a Christian, my own personal conviction is Paul was not a professional minister. He didn't get paid to be a missionary in the sense that he's the professional. He sold tents, right? Like, I mean, he was a tent maker. All of these people that we look at, like
tent maker by trade. Yeah. He did say that, don't muzzle the ox while it's treading the grain. He did say, I hear a lot of people turn that into, well, the people that work for church shouldn't be paid. Well, Paul said they should, and he said, I don't want to command you because I could, but I want you to love and
Yeah. The only thing
there's that as well.
Basically what separates me from as a quote unquote professional from someone else is just what's on my W-2, right?
Sure.
Like that's it. So my conviction is even if I did not work here, I wouldn't change what I do. Like my calling isn't around what I'm paid to do, like who God made me to be, who I'm equipped, who I've been like taught. That doesn't matter. I'm just like, all right, so the job is if I'm really going to like not professionalize it, really the answer is, okay, look at the best ever.
Yeah.
I like what you're saying about not professionalizing it.
Yeah.
Because that's I have a visceral high school homeschool word there. I have a visceral reaction to people saying, well, I'm just a church professional. I go, well, there's no such thing.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, the enemy has no vested interest in fill in whatever Fortune 500 company. He has no vested interest in the failure of that company.
Yeah.
But he does in the failure of Manna Church. Mm. Why? Because we're coming for what he thinks he has. We're coming for his kingdom. We're coming to roll out the red carpet. So that means then, whether you're serve team, whether you're cashing checks, whether you're whatever you're doing, we're doing something that is taking ground from darkness.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of not turning it into a professionalized thing. I'm not clear. I'm not like I'm not editorializing what you're saying. I'm just making sure it's clear that you're not turning this into like,
No. You can say whatever you want.
This all reminds me of a growth track principle that one of our philosophies of ministry here at Manna Church is that we're not just a teaching center, we're a training center. Yeah. And we also talk about how a lot of people will view church like you've got all the professionals that are out on the field, they're playing the game, and then you've got all of the the church members up in the stands and they're just spectating, they're just watching. We believe that that's completely false. That we flip that on its head.
I'm coming here for spiritual nourishment. All right, let me tell you where spiritual nourishment is found. It's not sitting there listening to me. It's coming and rolling your sleeves up and getting alongside of me.
Yeah.
Doing it. So we believe
the work.
Let's take that same scenario, repaint the scenario. We believe that the saints are actually out on the field. They're doing the ministry. They're playing the game, right? And we've got
Now,
if you want to call
we didn't make that up. The Bible says that.
Right.
Okay. Paul says that in
Absolutely.
Ephesians.
Ephesians
Every
4.
joint supplies. Yes. In the whole list of the fivefold
Absolutely.
and all that jazz. They exist to what? Equip the saints for the work of the ministry. So lest you think it is the pastors, and I only got the title pastor because the IRS calls me pastor. I'm apostolic and
government
prophetic.
thing.
Right.
Yeah,
but way more than I'm.
If we do want to single those people
Pastoral.
out, like where are the pastors, the apostles, prophets, evangelists, teachers? Where are they? They're on the sidelines coaching.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are helping equip the saints for the work of the ministry. And then who's in the stands then? Okay, well, we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses.
That's right.
Hebrews 12. And so we take that picture and we believe, just talking about professionals, I hate that term. I hate that term professionals.
I don't, because language matters. And I think where we get muddy is we're just afraid to educate people and just teach them what words mean.
So what do you mean?
Well, there you
what
go.
do you mean when you say professionals?
He can fix it.
The
So
word
Bryson
means-
messed it up. You messed it up further. I messed it up more. And now he's going to land the plane.
So a professional is someone who is being paid to do a job. So if you work for a church, you are a professional.
Yep.
And I've seen too many times in church world, we use the we're not a professional as a crutch to be lazy and sloppy and give our second best.
That's not what I
It's
mean.
a job. And I know that's not
that's
I
not
know
what
that's
we're
not what
referencing.
we mean, but
Yeah.
this is what I'm saying. Language matters. We have to be careful because we tend to swing and throw it all away. We're professional. That means let's forget spirit empowerment, relational, and we become so task driven. So I think of it as reframing why we're doing what we're doing is because we're doing it as worship unto the Lord. It's a level of excellence we're bringing.
That's
I
good.
was gonna say, we
That-
still believe
so
that's
excellence
good.
is the
So
standard.
that's where the professionalism comes
Excellence
out of.
is
So I
our
just
standard.
I just tend to want to make sure we're clearly defining words. When someone says I'm not religious, bro, you're standing in a church service on a Sunday. You are textbook religious. What you mean is, well, I'm saved by grace through faith. I don't believe in empty, hollow works. But words have
So
meaning.
I'll take your
give
nerd.
clarity.
I'll see your nerd, and I'll raise you.
Yep.
I'll raise you 20 more nerd dollars. Because it's not. We say all the time that language is important. It's not just that language is important. It's that the words mean what you say they mean.
Yes.
It is agreeing or aligning or at least starting to walk down the path on right. This means what it says that you say you mean.
And I think there's an implication when I say we're not professionals, and maybe I should specify, but the implication is that we're not professional Christians. Because what is a professional Christian?
That's it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's
See,
what
that's the implication.
That's
When
what I'm
I say
getting at.
we're not professionals, there's no such thing as a professional Christian.
Exactly. That's why I think it's important to pause and flesh that out because I think a culture of assumption in church space is one of the most dangerous things in the world. And we can assume because we all speak the same language that everyone all speaks the same language.
Yeah.
So I think it's always healthy to push that button and say, wait a minute.
Fair enough.
What did you
I
mean?
think that's
Like
a
when
good
Bryson
challenge.
said, I don't do anything. Like, hold on.
Yeah, that's
I think Chris actually responded first. Like, wait, that's not what you
That's not
really
what you
mean.
mean.
What you're saying.
That's not
Yeah, I think what if we were gonna just compare language and that, like a professional, or most people are going to get as professional, like a professional golfer. They're paid to play golf because they are the highest skilled.
Yeah.
Sure.
Where we are not the highest skilled Christians, leaders, whatever. Therefore, we are professional.
Yep.
Leaders.
Those
and in that
those don't
sense-
go hand in hand,
No, right.
Because
So-
again, we should be careful. There are some of us who are the best at what we do,
Yeah,
and that's why we
true.
do what we do.
Yeah. So I'm not going to sit and say, like, on our team of a lot of people that I am a quote unquote professional in the sense that I'm the most skilled,
Yeah.
either leader
That's good.
or serve team member or have the greatest faith or anything. That's not true.
Yeah, I've said it this way before. If I'm the most spiritual person in the room, it's not because of my title.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's because of my pursuit of God.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like what you said too about the who's on the field, who's in the stands. I like to think of the people who work for a church. So if you're looking at the fivefold gift or whatever, I still like to say they're player coaches, because just because I have a title of a pastor and a church has me doing a certain function, I still have to be a Jesus follower in the real world. So for me, I live by that conviction. Like someone has to know me not as Pastor Carlo.
That's right.
Someone has to know
accountability.
I still have to make sure, am I doing the very thing?
That's
am
good.
I serving? Am I loving? So
Because
player coaches.
those titles do come with, like, I'm the lead pastor of Manna Church in Fayetteville, Fort Bragg. Now, imagine that I didn't know anything about how to structure a staff of our size. Imagine I knew nothing about that. I mean, I wouldn't argue that I'm the best in the world at the things that I do, but I need to bring some competence to the table.
Yes.
And I need to level up some I mean, you know this about me. I don't think of myself as the best preacher. I have
But
coaches
there is a reason that you have got to the place that you're at,
Well,
right? So it's not that the title qualified you for that. It's
there's
that
a sarcastic
who you are.
response that I'm not going to say,
Don't.
but Carlo's laugh. He knows it. I got the reaction I was looking for.
Well,
there it
you
is.
go.
He got me.
I'm glad you're glad.
Could I throw something? Because while I do think it's helpful, maybe for someone who's listening, who we're a church staff.
I love that you still think that people listen.
They listen when they watch
The
too.
2 people on Spotify.
My wife and I were watching the bonus episode yesterday. We were in the car. We listened to Pastor Chris Hodges, and she went to YouTube. She turned it on and put the phone down.
Yeah, see, that's what I do.
Yeah, but she said to me, "Should we be listening to this on Spotify? Like, do we need to add?" I was like, "No one listens. I don't think anyone listens."
Even
on
when I
Spotify.
listen in the gym, it's on YouTube.
What a guy!
So for those who are consuming our content on whatever media outlet they are,
that uses more data though,
Here's the
right?
thing,
Like
here's the
you
thing.
could
How about
stream on
this?
Spotify and it would use less
How about
data.
this? If you're listening right now on Spotify, go ahead and drop a comment down below that we won't
Spotify,
read.
Apple. No, I will read Spotify, Apple Music. You guys need to stand up for yourselves. Like we need to make your voices
Pastor
heard.
Chris will read your
These
comment.
stop it.
I
These
listen on
YouTube-
Apple Podcasts.
Do you really?
All
Wow.
my podcasts on Apple. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't regularly listen to us, but since we had PC on, I regularly listen to guests.
What's crazy is I never listened to this on Apple Podcasts, but all the other podcasts I listen to are on Apple Podcasts. Yeah. So
What a turkey!
yeah, I am a turkey. All right, listen, we got to get back.
Well, what I was gonna say,
rails.
for if you're on the other side, what the not professionalizing ministry, one of the things is working with a bunch of people who are not paid to do ministry. One of the things I get so frustrated with is they tell me all the reasons that they cannot do something because they aren't whatever. And I wish more people would say, I can do this because I am a follower of Jesus. I can go perform an outreach without the red shirts on because I'm a follower of Jesus. I can go
Just
preach
part
the
of who I
gospel.
am.
Yeah, it's who you are. So stop saying I can't do this because I'm not. No, say I can do this because of who I am.
Yeah, the title doesn't qualify
Right.
you. The title is helpful, but it doesn't qualify you.
Yeah,
The
no.
red shirt didn't qualify you to do outreach.
Yeah.
It's just who we are.
I
Outreach
think-
is
I
the
think-
heartbeat of the church.
I think that what we see happening here, what we see and we find community, and within community there is safety.
Yeah.
Like the thing that I wish more Christians would hold on to. We're talking about professional, not professional, et cetera. The reason why it's so important to be in a believing body of Christians is, number one, you're not very good on your own. You watch TV or YouTube all by yourself, and you make all sorts of crazy ideas based on whatever you saw, and you need to live that out in the community so people can go, I don't think that's what they meant when they said that.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's safe. It's safe to do all these things that we're talking about because there's safety in numbers.
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest with you. I am a professional Christian. And it is so much easier on Serve Day when you walk downtown, prayer walking, all these people arm in arm. We're not physically arm in arm, but we're like all down there together in red shirts. Boy, it's so much easier because it's so much safer. Now, I'll do that on my own.
Yes.
But man, it's
Yeah.
you never know who's going to come and talk to you or give you feedback or pushback. The church community is safe, man.
Yeah.
It's safety. People think like you.
I like it. Okay, so I want to come back to this idea of add versus multiply.
Yeah, sorry, we're way off topic here.
How do we distinguish between someone who's been added to the church versus someone who is now becoming a multiplying leader? And this is for anybody.
A multiplying leader.
Yeah. Like
A
this is not
multiplying
just
leader
someone who's
is
been
leading.
added.
A multiplying leader is leading people through people. In other words, a multiplying leader. Well, just a ridiculous example. If my kids are ministering to kids on their sports team and I'm ministering to my kids, I can look at that and go, I'm beginning to multiply my relationship with Jesus in my kids into that sports team. I'm now stepping into multiplying. It's
You are. Now,
Me?
your kids wouldn't be quite yet because
They're
they're still adding.
yeah,
But you.
correct.
So,
Yeah,
so your
it is-
goal for your kids is to eventually
it is
have.
the disciple making process.
Yep.
Yep.
Someone is not beginning to look. You can call yourself a disciple of Jesus until you are discipling someone else in what you've gotten from Jesus. You are not yet you're not ever fully formed, but you're not yet stepping into what the early church would have called a disciple.
Yep.
You ain't one.
Yeah.
Disciples disciple others.
My friend Dr. Greg Garner, he takes it a step farther, and he actually says, the original apostles, the ones who were called, he said, there was an end point of their training. So discipleship wasn't this lifelong class that you took. It wasn't this lifelong lesson. It was come and learn, then I'm going to send you and do, then I'm going to correct what you're doing, then you're going to fail the test, then I'm going to empower you, and then you're going to go. So he loves to make that argument that it isn't until, again, places like Acts 4, 5, 6, that you actually see these followers really
step in.
Now they're really being disciples of Jesus, because they're not just doing what he said. Like it's full on. They're training others to do it, empowering others to do it. Yeah. So the full circle of that discipleship is effectively when the disciple, or when the person you're discipling takes that step into doing what you're doing. Because now we're on.
Now you stand to win or lose.
Yep.
That's when you stand to win or lose.
Right.
Yep.
Bryson, you and I were talking about the same concept yesterday in my office, and we were talking about because you used to be an intern here at Manna Church.
Yes.
And we would go through curriculum called Habitudes from Dr. Tim Elmore, and there's this one that talks about the Joshua problem. It talks about Moses. You want to explain that?
Yeah. So the Moses, Moses had he was the head, right? And so he had his replacement was Joshua. So he did a good job of raising up someone who was going to take his place when he left. Joshua then happened, and then after Joshua there was
nobody.
Right. So the problem that we run into leadership is like,
then you got the judges after that. So we don't want to celebrate that.
Right. So there was, again, I didn't write this habitude, Dr. Serrano. Please, I'm explaining something that someone else wrote.
It's a good.
I'm scooting over. Yeah.
I have thoughts, but drive on.
Yeah. The idea is as a leader,
there's only one perfect book. But anyway, continue.
So, So the problem in leadership is, you always want to be looking for someone to take your place. So as the serve team director, I am constantly looking for and training up those who could take my spot. And what hopefully in my training of them is that they are constantly looking for who would replace them. So if they were to step into my role as a serve team director, they should already have someone in their back pocket who would be their Joshua. So we kind of made the joke is like, you don't really want to create more Joshuas. You want to create more Moseses.
That's
so
true.
My job is not to create a Joshua.
Mosai?
My job,
Mosen,
Mosen,
a flock of Mosen.
Meesen.
there's somewhere in there. Dr. Serrano, can you?
Yeah, the principle. I love the principle. I don't like the hermeneutics. I love the principle. I don't like the hermeneutics.
How so?
Just because we're not given the name of who might have been following Joshua doesn't mean we can make this massive leap and just assume Joshua didn't train anyone. There's a whole lot of history and culture and people and stuff that are happening in there. I wrote a chapter on Joshua in my book, Biblical Perspectives of Resilience and Leadership. Joshua is arguably one of the only Old Testament leaders we see that has no failure point. Like there's no direct connection to an ethical, moral failure on his end and some kind of sin. So he actually stands as a champion for here's how you can stand up under pressure and lead the way that God wants you to lead. So I do agree with the principle of you want to train someone, but I don't even know that I like the term of replacing myself. One of my favorite lines for empowering leadership, I'm paraphrasing, is Pastor Michael says, listen, he starts this crazy 6 a.m. discipleship club on a Sunday morning, and other preachers are like, why are you giving away the best time of your life?
Prescriptive versus descriptive.
Preach to people.
Let's just be clear.
Of course.
Okay.
I'm not saying
we're
start at 6
describing
a.m.
his story, not prescribing.
Here's the heart of what he said is what I love, is in paraphrasing, he effectively told these other church leaders, that's the difference between me and you. You're standing up preaching to people. I'm trying to develop an army of world changers. I'm trying to empower everyone not to replace me, Michael Fletcher, but to be who God's called them to be. God has a plan for you, and you're part of this mission, and I want to empower you, not to replace me, but to thrive in what God has.
Some people in ministry do enough task so they can stand up and talk to people. And then some people stand up and talk to people so that they have enough leadership collateral so they can lead. That's semantics. It's a conversation for another day.
Okay.
But everyone's motivated by something.
Yeah, if I could put some legs on that too. I've noticed there was Like I care.
We talking like 6'4" legs or like 5'11" legs? Like what?
We'll put it on your legs. I'll give some
5'11" legs. Okay,
some average height legs.
Yeah. I didn't know if I should take a nap. If it's 6'4" legs, I was gonna snooze for a second.
What were you saying?
Yeah. If I care a lot about guest services at a church, which is one I could get into some really, really nerdy things about how the way and where you stand at a door while you're welcoming someone in could ultimately go into. You could get really deep into it. If I care a whole lot about it, yes, it's good. I care, but that's not my job. My job is that I can raise up someone who can teach someone else to care about it. That's my job, is that whoever's standing at the door can train someone else on how to take seriously what they are doing. Because it's not about me replacing myself. It's about them being able to teach someone else. That's at one point, if you have a bunch of people who are standing just doing a job, that's not really my job. Yeah, the task gets done, but I want them to be able to hold on to it, bear the burden.
Okay.
And go.
What do you got?
So I wasn't napping. I was good.
Patiently waiting.
No, I think that's really good because I just said being outranks doing. But the great thing is that if you add that heartbeat, my heartbeat is to eliminate the roadblocks to you hearing well done, to you take another step into your purpose. The great thing is I've done every job at this organization with the exception of CFO and counseling pastor. I've done every
Thanks
other.
be to God.
Every yeah.
Praise the Lord.
You're glad I was not in any way counseling. I've done every other job. And the beauty of that is if the heartbeat stays the same, really most of the tasks are not that hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, really at the end of the day, that's the beauty of a leader who's focused on people and eliminating roadblocks to their success and recognizes I don't get success unless the people around me taste success.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. It'll take that do that we keep pushing off to the side as if it's only be. No, it's be and do. You got to be able to do some stuff. The beautiful thing is, I mean, I know some of the things that you're talking about, and not because you and I have had a conversation, because I used to do that job. So when I did that job, I cared as equally. And then I did a different job, and I didn't stop caring about that. I just cared 110% for what was in front of me. Yeah. And so the pathway to, well, how is it? You joked about all the talents I'm average at the beginning. I don't know that I'm really actually genuinely average. Well, I am average at a lot of talents, mostly because I just care a great deal about that heartbeat. I'm gonna make these people around me better, and so whatever I'm doing, I'm gonna do it like I'm best in the world at it. And you won't actually ever end up being best in the world at most things, but you'll be north of average because you care.
That's why I read Acts 6 and I can't get past verse 3. They had a good reputation. My imagination just floods to the moments where I imagine some of these seemingly no-name people serving
I'm gonna make
the
this
Greeks.
addition for the message.
Like actually serving the Greek widows. Like someone told them, hey, there's an issue here, but he's got like 5 friends who are part. I imagine that they brought that to the table. It's why our language at Manna Church is so important. It's why we say the same thing over and over and over and over again, because we're trying to get you to capture that heartbeat. I love that. The tasks, that's the easiest thing we do. The hardest thing is to align us around where's God positioning us.
That's good.
And so that language matters, saying it over and over and over again, not to brainwash, but really to get it within our heart.
Well, speaking of language, though, so we've been saying this word over and over, multiply. And we're not just talking literal math, although we say that multiply is God's math. We're talking about, there's actually multiple things we're talking about.
The idea of multiply is God's math. It's my dad's idea, but it's Genesis 15, when God tells Abram that your reward shall be very great.
Yeah.
That Hebrew word is rabah. 45 times in the Old Testament. It's not but used like 60. 45 times in the Old Testament, that word is translated multiply. Now, I am but a lowly interpreter. But Strong's Concordance says most of the time this word is used, it means multiply.
Yeah.
So that's the whole idea of multiply being God's
concept
math.
of
That's the promise that God gave to Abram.
So there's that concept, but also we use this as a proper noun because this movement that Manna Church is on to multiply, we call it the multiply movement. Pastor Chris, can you explain to the viewers out there what is this multiply movement?
We call it the multiply movement because we're at Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We have an annual attrition rate between 20 and 30%, which means our church skins itself every 3 years. So there are very few people. I mean, it's a pocket of the people that come to Manna Church. It's a pocket of people that have been here 7 to 10 years or longer. Most people are not. So in 2014, my dad read the end-of-year report. That year was 1,143 people left us due to military transfer. So he said, "Well, we're going to start planting Manna churches along what we call the military highway, which is just the bases, the U.S. military installations across the world."
Yes. And we Googled it one day, and it was 273.
We didn't. I don't know if we Googled it. He looked at a Baptist. My dad is big on vision and not necessarily big on all of the.
Essentially, we realized it's probably not 273, but that's the number that we held on to.
But that's the number that we're so deeply branded on and fits on shirts so well. We're sticking with it.
Yeah, that's right.
And everyone finds their number.
That's what
in
it
there.
means. It's like baseball.
There's 3. We're the 27th Manna Church. It's okay.
Kind of.
Yeah, they're branding that as well. But whatever. We believe that the mandate from God on our church is to plant, to come alongside servicemen and women as they are transferred to another duty station, and be a part of the process of helping make it easy for God to move in their hearts. And we're just now starting to scratch the surface on a youngster who was here. God really met him in his life. He got discipled here. I met his wife here. He ended up moving to another place, and he may or may not at some point be planting a church. So that's kind of the heartbeat from the beginning.
Yeah.
That we could be a part of the process of someone really stepping into this whole thing of decide to pick up their spot in the game and run with it. Yeah. And now he and his wife are praying about actually planting a full-on church expression in an undisclosed
location,
but very outstanding
location. But that's happened
location.
so many times already, and so we see the hand of God, His blessing and favor upon this movement that we're calling Multiply.
My brother Jonathan has pastored at 3 Manna churches.
That's true.
Here,
in capital area, and now
here
in Killeen,
again,
Texas.
Now in Killeen, Texas.
Yeah.
4 different stops.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's real.
Dr. Carlo, so we're talking about Multiply in the context of institutionally, what it looks like for this organization. But Multiply can also be applied to us personally. What does that look like in your life?
Wow, that's a big question. I do think fundamentally it's the discipleship conversation. Are you making disciples? Literally connected to Multiply Movement. That's me, who was a part of another network that Manna Church was a part of. That heard this 2014, this is what Manna Church is doing. And through my other connections to Manna Church through Grace College of Divinity, Manna University, didn't know what God was doing in me. I thought I was going to be a full-time professor somewhere. Here was my dream job. If you would have asked 10 years ago, if you would have asked me, what are you going to do? Finish this PhD so I can go work at Austin Peay State University teaching leadership so that I can teach and preach at a church with none of the junk that comes with working for a church.
Well,
that was the dream.
For somebody who helps people find purpose, you were so wrong about yours.
Well, seriously, I thought, Lord, this is what I want to do. And I had no clue. He's fashioning me and forming in me what I'm supposed to be doing.
I was going to say, there are some similarities to what you do now, though.
Yeah, but literally, I
just way better.
I get to
way better.
In 2020, Pastor Michael Fletcher and Dr. Steve Crowther said, "Hey, we think you need to be the next president of the school. This is what it's going to look like." And so,
Bryson said no. So we were scraping the bottom of the barrel.
No,
Nick
was not yet qualified.
Nick couldn't
he
read.
will be one day,
That's right.
but he's not yet qualified.
I'm still learning the color inside the line.
So I tell, literally, and I don't want to make this a long story. I told Jamie, "Hey, here's what they're asking me to do."
Jamie's his wife. There you go.
And she said, "I told you we were going to live in Fayetteville one day." Nothing to pray about. Let's move that way. So I went to the pastor I was getting to serve with in Clarksville. Shout out Chris Edmondson, OneChurch.tv. And I told Chris, here's what they've asked me to do. Of course, he's crying. He's excited because he knows my heart for the school.
Yeah.
And I said, so now you have to treat me like I just PCS'd to Fort Campbell, because in 3 years, I'm PCSing to Fort Bragg. That was my mindset. It was instantly, I'm going to hop on this military highway thing and just do it through the
Is he a veteran
of the university. He's not.
Born
and raised in Clarksville in the Fort Campbell area.
Okay. So he's familiar with it because you're a veteran.
Much,
so
yes.
that language translates
very
to you.
much. And he knows it because he's lived that 25 years of you make a good friend and then they go away. He lived that.
Of course.
You make a good friend and then they go away.
We literally left our kids in Tennessee. They're grown. We left our kids.
Yeah,
we left our kids. We abandoned
someone needs
them.
to spot check this guy's
we
stories.
abandoned
Jamie is
them
his
and
wife.
moved-
He
and
did not
moved-
abandon his children in Clarksville. Come on.
Right.
No,
That's right.
it's all good.
No, that's good. So that's what multiplies looks like in your life.
For us.
Chris, what would you say to the average church member who may be watching and they're saying, hey, I'm trying to discern how to step in. Where do I start? Where do I serve? Like, how do I figure that out for me? What fits for me? What would you say to them?
I would say the first thing is what is in your hand and the season. Okay, so these are big important things. What is in your hand? What are the gifts, talents, abilities that you have? Because at the end of the day, you owe those gifts not to the local church. You don't owe those gifts to me. You don't owe those gifts. If you play, I used to lead worship. If you play guitar, you do not owe me that gift. You're not helping me out. I'm not here to pastor a sound or to whatever. You owe that gift to the giver. So what's in your hand? What are you good at? And at the same time, what is your season? So if your season is, when my wife and I first got married, started having kids, our season was little kids at home. So guess what we weren't doing? All the things that required teenage kids that you could leave. So
That's just real life.
Our kids are not grown, but I got some on the grown side of the spectrum. So like if Ray and I are away doing ministry things now together, we can leave our kids to watch our kids, and we can leave them up.
That'll be the day.
You're in a whole nother level when the kids watch the kids. But the beauty of that is that means that's a huge season shift for us. So you need what gifts and talents do you have, and what season? God did not get it wrong. Kids, listen to me, look me in the windows of my soul. Youngsters, young people that have kids. The kids are not your impediment to ministry. If you want to start with multiply and you have children, raise those children.
Let's go.
As if, now I'm going to tell you right now, I'm sitting here because at the end of the day, for all of you touched by my parents' lives, for all of you touched by my father's life, here's the sad truth of it. He loved me more than he loved the ministry. And he cared for me and invested in me.
That's not the sad
like
truth.
The ministry.
That's the exciting truth.
Well, that's the exciting truth. The ministry will never understand. I was never sacrificed for ministry. So because of that, my father multiplied in 8 children this idea that our families are first. Like at the end of the day, if my son needs something, there is nothing more important on the planet. I can think of moments where, and I probably shouldn't admit this on camera, I've had people come and like, my daughter is stranded on Ramsey Street because of a miscommunication. She's at a thing. She needs someone to pick her up. This lady comes up crying. There's a bunch of prayer folk down front. And I said, well, I'm going to direct you to these folk. You don't have a minute. I do not. My daughter is at Ramsey Street. She's going to be all by herself in a building in a minute. I don't. I have the most important task in the world is Brooklyn. She will always be the most important task. Yeah. Until Jaden does something stupid and needs something. But anyway, I'm mostly kidding. If that, I would tell you before life is longer than we give it credit for. Slow down. Yeah. Put your phone down. Stop looking at these instant overnight successes. They're lying to you. Instagram is fake. The internet is fake. They're lying to you. Put your phone down. It's not all an overnight success. Calm down. Yeah. Slow down. Children are not a season. Children are a gift. So don't treat them as a season. And I just got to go, I'm good at music, but I have small children at home. How do I reconcile the two? I guess I'll bring them and stick them in the seats and put headphones on them for hours and hours and let them feel like they're...
No way.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I don't care if you're Mariah Carey. No, thank you. Yeah. The season will come when you're going to be able to take the gift that God's given you and deploy it. Until that comes, live in your season. So I would say, what have you got? What season are you in? And live that season. And God didn't make a mistake. And don't come at me like I don't understand. And we don't have time for me to go all the way through the litany of all the, we don't have time. I ain't hearing you.
It's part of why I told Dr. Crowther 4 or 5 times from 2015 until 2020, no, I'm not moving to Fayetteville to work for the school because I have these sons in school and my ministry is them. Yep. And I can do bad all by myself. I can keep doing ministry here and serving you, but I'm not going to wreck these kids' life.
Priorities, right?
For something that I can do after,
Well, and it reminds me, Pastor Chris Hodges was just on last week, and something he said really stood out to me. The grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it.
Yes.
That's good.
And where there's fertilizer, there's where it's stinky.
Okay, it might break down a little bit, but same concept. Yeah. I like it.
You get planted and get rooted right where you are in the season that you are, and you go
rooted and raw type of.
You get that's 2 shout outs.
Wow.
We didn't shout out Stephanie too. She's the producer brain behind
She's
that
here,
also
though.
podcast too. So
That's right.
She's y'all can't hear her, but she's
There you go.
She's smiling hard.
That's it.
Anyway, this has been good. Looking forward to continuing this series. But hey, as we wrap things up, we have a final segment that we're doing the Manna mailbag.
Hey.
There it is. We're doing the
Why is that the sound for mail?
It's because it's the
when you
mailbag.
send a email. It makes
There it
sense.
is.
That's
See?
what Nick wanted. That's why.
It's on the iPhone. When you get mail, that's the sound that plays.
Because he keeps being foolish like this. Stephanie's husband, I won't even use his name. Stephanie's husband keeps acting like a child back there with his sound effects.
I love it. I love it.
Hey, gotcha.
Can't stop me. All right, producer Andrew, what do you got for us today? What's the question?
All right. Today's question is from @Gurkha Puffer. That's it. @Gurkha Puffer.
Gurkha Puffer.
Yeah. I'm not.
Move on.
Nope.
Thank you. That's helpful. All right. This is what
Y'all in your
they
street
said.
names.
I'm having trouble understanding why the Israelites couldn't enter the presence of God in the tabernacle if they were impure, while Satan and other demonic spirits were able to enter his presence. I'd appreciate some help in this.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I'll take this one, guys. I'm just kidding.
That is a great question.
No one believed you, Bryson.
Yeah, no.
That's a great question. The answer is simply the tabernacle system and the enemy of our souls, our other spirits supposedly entering into the presence of God are not synonymous. So we have to be careful when we use the Bible in a way that comes from our 20th or 21st century perspective of what we think the presence means and what it is. So, for example, there's passages in Job where people refer to Satan presenting himself before the Lord and all of that, without just wrecking people's theology and faith of what the book of Job is. Be mindful that we don't read poetry, we don't read history, we have to understand the genre of these texts because it's going to help us apply it well. I also think there's a difference between being welcome into the presence of the Lord and being summoned into the presence of the Lord. And what we see in some of those texts people refer to of, well, Satan went before the Lord in the demons. We have to understand that's not the same thing as God's people being invited into his presence. More importantly, final thought, as New Testament Christ followers, our perspective of what it means to be in the presence of the Lord must always come from that perspective. If Jesus is in me, his presence fills me. I am his temple. So yes, he is all around, but also within. I love that verse in Luke 17, the kingdom of God is among you is how we translate it. That actually the most translations of that word, it really is the kingdom of God is in you. It connects to Luke's idea of you're the spirit. Now the spirit of God is inside.
There's a difference between being invited into the courtroom to be on trial and being invited to my house. Both come with my presence. Both come with my presence, but there's a difference. When we're at my home communing,
You're not
having
being
fellowship,
summoned.
you're not being summoned and you're not on trial for something.
And the scripture clearly tells us who can stand in the presence of the Lord, clean hands
And a pure heart.
So that can't be true. And Satan's full on coming in front of God's presence whenever he wants. Both of those things can't be true at the same time, meaning the same thing. So obviously Satan coming, that's a different kind of access
Sure.
to the presence of God.
Yeah, when you're summoned into the courtroom, that doesn't make you innocent.
No. Yeah, there's a difference. And what you're doing on Sunday morning, what you're doing in the tabernacle moment is not being summoned in the courtroom. You are coming to lay yourself before the throne and remind yourself, I'm not up there.
That's right.
And to bring homage. And so the difficulty then is now we're bringing sacrifice. And when we're sacrificing, we're approaching his holiness because what he's doing is difference between being summoned into his presence, everything is veiled, and he's here to produce a sentence on something that's happening, as opposed to you're coming behind the veil and now we're going to get to interface and commune with his holiness and presence. The thing that I want to be really careful about is that whole tabernacle law system. Paul talks about it in Romans. I didn't know what wrong was until the law taught me that covetousness, it produced in me every covetous desire, and I was, I died. The thing to remember here is that worship and coming into the presence of God was always about God telling his people, here's how you can spend more time with me.
Yep.
When you're summoned in the presence of God to be smoten or to be dealt with, like we're talking about there, that's a different sort of situation. So when it talks about why couldn't they bring impurity before him, because this was meant to be a love relationship shared in I want you to be here for longer, but you can't. Why? Because you're dirty. And my presence yearns for, I want to be careful how I say that. Don't run that out into some crazy theological thing. It's not. But the only thing that we bring to the equation is commune with him. That's all we bring. I don't add to him. I don't do something that he needs.
Right.
He doesn't need anything from me. So it's for his glory. He chooses to commune with me and enjoy our fellowship. And so that being the case, he's just going, hey, do you want to stay in here longer? Do you want to stay longer with me? Do you want to spend more time in my presence? Let me tell you how. Let's clean this up. Why? So we can be together for longer.
Yeah.
It's a different thing.
That's cool. That's a good question. Thank you, Gurkha Puffer. Is that right? Gurkha Puffer? Okay, there you go.
Gurkha Puffer.
As right as I can pronounce it. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Awesome. Well, we love you guys so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. For real, we are so glad that you're in this with us. You're invited to the table, and we like that.
And if you listen to the end, I got to remind you, if I get 10 comments below that want to hear Nick single, I will bring it to the podcast next week.
Did you know there's another one coming out, Chris?
I didn't, but
I'm so done with this.
I imagine.
All right. Hey,
it's probably
listen,
a thing.
if you got anything out of this, go ahead and make sure you like, share, subscribe. And if you live in the Fayetteville, Fort Bragg area, we want to invite you to our in-person services. You can go to our website, manna.church, to see service times and locations. If you don't live here, you can join us online for Manna Online. So we love you guys. God bless you. And until next time, let's change the world. Check out our website, manna.church, to find ways you can get connected with our services, small groups, outreaches, and more.